Hi everyone, so good afternoon. This is Ray speaking on behalf of Do Good Team and Youth Center Malaysia, and we'll be discussing today about social media, the effects of social media on youth, basically. We do have our two speakers for today. Okay, so let's start first, with introducing both of you guys. It's way better if you guys will speak on your behalf.
Assalamualaikum and good afternoon all. As Ray mentioned, my name is Dr. Khadijah Hasanah Abang Abdullah.
Alright, Assalamualaikum. My name is Wardina Safia.
So today I'll be discussing about the impact of social media in terms of mental aspect with regards to youth and to our other youngsters, because nowadays a lot of people are actually having difficulties adapting to the new environment that we're currently living in with the new age of information. So I'll be speaking first with Dr. Khadijah with regards to some of the questions in regards to this matter. So let's start with the first question. So what do you think is the impact of social media on a mental aspect of an individual, especially during this pandemic, this COVID season, or post-COVID for other countries? So we're currently bubbled up in our holed up in our rooms for like a long time.
Okay. Let's start with a bit about social media. It's very popular nowadays, and I think even some of our grandparents use it. Yeah? And data says in Malaysia, about 80% of Malaysians are active social media users. And on average, they spend about 5 hours per day on social media. Okay, and the most popular social media is WhatsApp, Facebook, and others like YouTube, Instagram, Telegram, TikTok. The question is, why is it popular? Yeah, and if this is good to the individual, especially during this COVID epidemic time. The short answer is both. It has good effects and also the bad effects. So let's look at the positive side first. First, it's a place to get information. So especially during this COVID epidemic, people need information. In Malaysia, the officials use it to spread information and news, and if you use it well, it can calm your anxiety. So it can give a good effect, because you get good information or the true information. And then you can use it to still stay connected with your friends and families. During this, in Malaysia, it's called movement control order. So you cannot go out of the house without any reasons. So when you are sitting at home, staying at home, and it's good if you use social media to still get in touch, still get connected with your family members and friends, so that you don't feel lonely. So it's again a positive effect. And also it can be a coping strategy when you feel lonely or bored inside the house. Then you can use the social media to get new or funny, engaging content that make you feel relaxed or even feel pleasure. In Malaysia, I noticed that people use social media to find new hobbies. Some people start gardening, try new recipes. So they use the social media to try new things, which is again a good thing, a positive thing for them. And for some people during this epidemic, they cannot work as usual. So and especially those who are doing business, so it can be difficult for them. So when they use social media to help market their services or products, they can still continue to do business. People still organize webinars or live streaming through Facebook so that they can still be in touch with their community. And for youth, they still have their classes or engagement with their peers through online meetings. So that's the positive part. But then, of course, there are the negative side. For example, misinformation. This happens when you get information about the COVID-19 epidemic from friends, families, and not from trusted source or verified sources. And this actually can lead to unnecessary anxiety, panic, and worries. So people can become very panicked, and they start, for example, that time they start buying a lot of face masks, hand sanitizers, and they stock it all up. This can create deplete in the resources, and can lead to other problems as well. Apart from that, there are those people, those individuals who like to create fake news. These people, they create fake news about the virus, and how to deal with the viruses, and this creates anxiety and also panic to the people. And during this movement control order, when you cannot go out, so you spend most of your time in the house, and sometimes you get bored, so you are mostly on social media. So reading the feeds on social media, usually people show good things, happy things, and this can give pressure to others. For example, when your circumstances are different from others, you may try to compare yourself. For example, you see on Facebook your friend uploaded a picture of they're having fun, they're having a good time in their house. But then when you compare to your situation at home, you may come from a different family background, having lots of family issues at home. So now your parents are both at home, for example, they're fighting, and you're unhappy at home. And sometimes you can have like financial issues, and that can cause a lot of burden and a problem as well at home. So when you compare yourself to others who are portraying this perfect picture, this happy picture, you can feel sometimes can feel very depressed, and you can develop other depressive symptoms like sleep problem, appetite problem, losing your interest, feeling worthless, unhappy, and also it can lead to things like thinking about death, and suicide. So the worst part is it leads to you feeling that life is not worth living anymore. And sometimes, on social media, you may give opinions, your own opinions. So you write there on Facebook, your opinions, and people may not agree with what you say, and can even shame you or degrade you, humiliate you, and this may be considered as cyberbullying. These are, I think, what I've given here is a look at both the positive effects and also the negative effects of using social media, and especially during this COVID epidemic period. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Mardina? So do you think the youth today use social media wisely?
Okay, so you know what I will do? I will call my youth here, because I don't think it's fair for me to speak on behalf of the youth, because I'm not youth, I'm old, right? So I'm going to call my youth here. This is my daughter,
Yes.
Amna, she's 17. Come here, darling. This is Amna. Okay.
Hello.
So,
Good afternoon.
let's ask her the question, because in terms of like what Dr. Khadija said, I actually my research for my honors thesis was about online racism. So that is also a mixture of cyberbullying inside there, which I studied in depth with. I'm very fascinated with the online behavior and how the online environments can change a person. So I found that very intriguing because of my own experiences online as well. So studies show that when you ask them a question, so there was a study that when they asked teenagers, so is social media good or bad? So they have a very mixed answer for that. So some of them say yes, some of them say no. Even research shows that there's no substantiated research that shows it is definitely good or it is definitely bad. So there's a lot of mixed research in that. So you can't say social media is good or bad. So you're not able to do that. So whether teenagers or youngsters use social media wisely would depend on a lot of factors, right? So now maybe if I ask a very general question like that to her, what would yours be?
I feel like with social media, you're in charge of what you see. So depending on the post that you interact with, it can be either good or bad. So if you interact with a lot of models and celebrities and they make you feel bad about your appearance, then obviously it would create a negative space for you to be in. But if you interact with more positive stuff, you interact with, say, activist accounts and stuff like that, Islamic reminders and stuff like that, then it becomes a positive space for you to be in and you don't really get much negativity from it. So me and my friends, we just use it to stay updated with each other's lives or post things that we think people should be aware of, like keeping up with movements from around the world, like the Black Lives Matter movement or the issues in China and that stuff. That's what we use it for. But obviously there are negatives. For example, those anonymous sites where you can say what you think about people anonymously, that gives a lot of platform for cyberbullying when you're hiding behind a screen. But other than that, I haven't really had any negative experiences and any of my friends.
So I see some teenagers using it for lots of good, you know, but I also see through research and experience a lot of young people using it for horrible things, you know, bad things. So that's a mixture on that, if you were to ask me.
Do you think the environment is actually shaping up the ways or the user's perception on how they use their social media, like from their peers? Do you think that heavily impacts them, the way they use social media?
Of course. I mean, as a human being, you cannot take out a person from the context of their environment. So a person is a result of the environment that they're in, you know. There's no ifs and no buts of that. Your environment plays a large factor on who you are and shape what you think. Definitely. So who you hang out with, where you go to school, maybe, right? Your friends, your culture,
socioeconomic status,
your social economic, whether you're from a problematic family household, where parents are fighting all the time, you have alcoholic, abusive parents, then you would probably use social media in a different way. So definitely that our youth, even us ourselves, you know, the way we use our social media account heavily depends on the environment and who your values and what you think, you know. So it's very hard to give a general answer to that particular question, right? Because everything depends on a lot of things.
Yeah. That's actually, like, yes, that's very well put out. Thank you so much for that one. Okay, so we'll move on back to Dr. Khadija. What are, like, do you think the symptoms that causes a person to develop a mental illness because of their too much usage on social media?
When you spend too much time on social media, you can lose your interest in other things. Yeah? For example, things that you used to do which are more healthy than spending time on social media. When you use the social media for a long time, you can become tired, exhausted, tired your mind and your body, and it affects your posture, and also your eyes. In social media, you are actually connected in a virtual way, and sometimes you can make new friends, especially when they play games, online games. But then you still feel lonely because the relationship is very superficial. This means that you'll feel social isolation, even though you have many friends, other gamers, other players, but then you still feel lonely inside. And additionally, the content of the social media might make you actively think about it, and again makes your brain active throughout the night. So again, this can lead to poor sleep at night. So when you have poor sleep, losing your interest, feeling tired, feeling the social isolation, all this can actually lead to depression as well. Because your body is tired and you have lots of intense emotion, you cannot regulate your emotions. So it can lead to symptoms of anxiety and also symptoms of depression. And youth, they like to be on TikTok. Amna must know it. TikTok users like to do challenges, and there is a constant pressure to keep up with their peers. There is a term called FOMO, fear of missing out. So they need to be like their peers. So they do different challenges, different dances, for example, just
Dr.
to be.
Khadija, I just had
Yes.
this conversation with my daughter last night about
Mhm.
TikTok. And then she was
Yes.
schooling. She was like, Umi, she says, TikTok is not all bad. She said, because she was talking about the good. Do you want to share?
So, like I said before, it depends on what you interact with. So, if you interact with like dances and singing and like all that kind of shallow stuff, then that's what will pop up on your feed. But if you're like me, again, you'll get reminders of social issues and activism, and you'll see videos of protests, videos of injustice, or how to like help with movements. So that's what I get on my TikTok. So when people like Umi's age are kind of like, oh, TikTok is contributing to the problem with all these young people, it's kind of like, download it and see what happens, because I feel like everybody has one sort of mindset about it when it's really flexible. It depends on what you interact with. So it can be good or bad.
True.
Yeah.
Like I explained before, social media can have the positive effect and also the negative side. Yeah? As Amna says, it's true. It depends on what you choose. Yeah, what you choose to watch. Yeah? And if you choose the negative part, it will affect you negatively. If you do, if you keep on doing the challenges and all and putting pressure on yourself to do it, then it can cause a lot of anxiety as well. And again, if you cannot achieve it, then you can disturb your self-confidence, and it can also lead to depression. Spending too much time on social media can lead to symptoms of mental illness. Yeah, I mentioned anxiety and depression, but it also can lead to symptoms of dependence or addiction. Yeah, meaning you cannot be without the social media. And if somebody took your phone, you'll feel very agitated or very restless. Yeah, and social media becomes more important than other things in life. So that's the addiction part. Yeah.
I actually do have a question for both of you guys, and and it is with regards to social media detox. Because all of the time we use social media all the time now. Do you think it's a necessary step to keep our mental state stable throughout time? So I wanted to know the thoughts, especially with our very young fella over there. I wanted to know, do you actually do social media detoxing?
I think it depends on how much you use social media. I found it a bit overwhelming at times. It can be very, very overwhelming, especially when I come from a background where I have always spoken up on things as truthful as I see it to be, right? Mm-hmm. And then you understand that when you put forth your opinions on social media, a lot of people disagree. I found it a bit overwhelming. So therefore, I realized throughout my social media use that I needed to detox and I needed to stop. I need to deactivate, which I did. And in certain instances, I actually deleted my whole Twitter account. For example, I had about 1 million over followers. I deleted that completely because it was very, very toxic for me, right? I would encourage social media detox, but then that depends also if that person uses how much they use and they interact with social media. Some people rarely post anything. They probably don't need to detox because they don't even go online. You know what I mean? I detox. First, I let go of my Twitter, and then I let go of my Facebook, which was probably a hard thing to do because you got so many followers. And then I deleted my Instagram. I opened up another public Instagram, which I don't really post much about my life at all, but then decided that I needed a break from that as well. So I recently deactivated, but I recently activated it again yesterday. So because of some issues that popped up.
Yeah, I tend to detox for about 2 weeks prior to my exam, because I find like there's nothing really on there that's important. Sometimes you just scroll through looking for something that's important when there's stuff in your life that you could be doing. You could be helping Omi out with the chores, or you could be studying. So I feel like it's a time filler, and that's why I detox, and I find myself engaging in more productive activities to fill the time that I would have been on Instagram. And that's
you see, but I think, Ray, you need some sort of knowledge and intelligence and insight to be able to make these kind of decisions, right? So it's not a decision that a person who does not think will make. So I feel that being able for us to actually think and stop and pause and say, you know what, I think I'm using social media a little too much. Need some form of insight and intelligence for you to actually realize that there are things that matters more in real life. This is what I always yell to my kids, like, this is real life. You need to wash your plates and not be on there. So she's realized that. I've got my second daughter who is actually using, I think, a little bit too much of social media. I tell her about it when I see it. I think you're using too much. What do you think? I ask her, and she says, yeah, I think I'm using too much. I've actually asked her to deactivate her Instagram, but she has.
It has to come from her.
It's got
me before, but it has to come from me myself realizing that I was using it too much to want to do it, and that way it's more rewarding as well because it comes from me, not you.
That's okay. So
Does that so you guys don't impose, especially as the mom, you don't impose any restrictions on what she uses, or do you just guide her?
No, I don't actually. I think she's mature enough. She's got good insight. She needs reminders, like everybody. I need reminders, right? I remind them, but I also give them that room and space to be able to make their own decisions and realize that if they don't, there's going to have consequences. So one of my daughter realized that she didn't pass up her assignment on time, and I think she has been on social media too much, and then she they need to feel that cause and effect, that consequences of that behavior. They need to experience that. We need to be able to engage in discussions with our children. Children also have different personalities, right? And also your dynamics in your house is different. So what works for me will not work for you. So every family has their own dynamics and their own rules, and they would know what to do better. They know their child better. There has to be some form of communication about social media use. That's very important in every family, I guess. With my 12-year-old, I'm not very successful. I get... he still sneaks up behind my back sometimes and use social media, watch videos, and I tell him not to. But then I engage in that conversation again, because at the end of the day, they need to learn to control themselves. It's going to be a very tough world if you're not teaching your children to be able to control themselves in today's age. Like it or not, social media is there. I don't think it is wise for you to stop the usage of your children's social media completely. It's not good at all. Because how are you going to stay informed on what's happening? You can't even do that now. You can't detach them completely. It's part of their life, right? Yeah.
So in a way, it's like more of like a guidance. As a parent, it's you guiding them and like teaching them how to use it wisely rather than restricting them.
I see that push and pull. There's some form. You need to have some form of restrictions, some form of freedom as well. They need to learn to make their own choice, but you need to guide them also. It's a very gentle push and pull. So it's also, it depends on a person's parenting style. Some people have more authoritarian parenting where mom says this, you follow. Some people have a more discussion, egalitarian approach where both of you get to discuss on what we feel is important and both of you make that decision, which is the parenting that I'm using. Some people have no rules, they're completely free. So different people have different styles of parentings, and your different style of parentings will have different consequences to your children. Although actually research does say that egalitarian approaches where you be able to sort of discuss with your children is a much better approach to parenting.
Because at the end of the day, your kids are going to come to their own realizations about the world and act on that. If you're too strict, you sort of don't allow them space to come to their own conclusions. So when they go out into their own world, it's a bit of a shock, like my mom's not here to tell me what to do. What do I do? So Umi just guides us what's right and what's wrong, and we come to our own conclusions.
And being able to make that mistakes as well. And they've got to be making their own mistakes. They lie. I know they lie sometimes. So I ask them, have you prayed? Oh, I haven't. Yes. Oh, I need to jump up my prayer. But that's part of growing up, and that's for us as parents, accepting that our children will not be perfect. They might slack online, they might slack offline, but that's a part of life, and you still love your children no matter what, I guess.
Yeah, that is true. What are your thoughts with regards to social media detoxing? Are there any studies show that it's quite an improvement if you do take a break from it, like every now and then?
Well, the general advice is to limit the use. Like Wardina did, she switched off the account deactivate the account and then reactivate again. Yeah, that is a form of detox. Yeah, but then limiting your use daily can be a form of detox as well. Like for example, when you go home, for families, when they go home, they need to concentrate on their children and spend time with their children. So limiting the use at home, meaning for example, you just put your phone away and not looking at it until the next day, then it can be a form of detox as well. Yeah. So the general advice is to limit the use, having insight. Yeah. So you have to be mindful of what you're doing on social media. What is it that you're looking for? Yeah. For example, if you're reading all the messages or the feeds on social media, how does it affect you? Does it make you feel good? Does it make you have like negative, intense emotions? Yeah? If it does, it does cause you like negative emotions like anxiety or fearfulness or feeling depressed, then you should know that this is not healthy for you. You either limit the use or you don't follow or subscribe that channel or that person. Yeah, like Amna said, what you choose to see or watch or listen to is very important. So you decide. So be mindful of how using your social media affects you. Look from the perspective of your emotion, how it affects your emotion. And if it's a positive thing, that's fine. But if it's a negative thing, then there must be something wrong. So you need to do something about it. So limiting it, and sometimes you can use, I think, a timer or alarm, certain apps. So you can actually monitor how much you spend on social media.
Do you think it's helpful if someone is like accountable, or like, someone, at least like one of your friends or like your parent or someone that you're close to, you can tell them to like, hey, can you tell me if I'm using it way too much? I can tell like some people have issues with in terms of like limiting themselves or self-disciplining themselves.
If it comes from that person, then I think it's cool. But most of the time, like parents will tell their children that they're using social media too much, or a spouse will tell the other spouse that they're using too much. So usually it will be seen as something negative. You're telling me that I'm using too much, I'm not doing it. Denial and all. And sometimes they can become angry as well, because you're telling them something that they don't think it's happening. But if it comes from them, I think I'm using too much, can you monitor my use? Then I think that is totally fine. It's related to the what we call the brain reward pathway. We have a pathway inside our brain that controls our motivation and also pleasure. So when you do something that is pleasurable, your brain will remember. Okay, your brain will remember that doing this is pleasurable, so the brain wants to do it again. When you're feeling very stressed out or tired, and you want something to boost up that dopamine, the brain reminds you that by going on social media, it makes you happy, so you go on it. It is sort of the same thing as what's happening to people who use drugs or other substance of abuse. And if this already happened to this person, like Wadina said, it can be very difficult for you to point it out because they wouldn't understand it. But because the brain already have this circuit that's saying, this is how you do it. When you feel unhappy, you go to social media, you get the pleasure, especially when you post something and then you get the likes. Nowadays, people are chasing the likes, right? So once you post something, you want people to like your post, people to maybe retweet, your tweet. Sometimes, it can go towards the addiction part, becoming dependent on it.
Yeah, it's how some people self-medicate as well. They get so stressed out with something, they just go online on social media to self-medicate. It's like going to alcohol. So I guess the takeaway is being aware of your loved ones and yourself to see this kind of behavior, and to know that you can cure this. It's not something that's not curable, right? And it is a problem of today's age in this 21st century. It's a real problem, and that we have to be on lookout for. I just want to touch on some experiences that I really want to share in terms of cyberbullying, right? So I have been cyberbullied a lot, like a lot. The form where I had real mental health issues of that triggered my anxiety, depression. In one instance where I was actually hospitalized as well due to the cyberbullying that I had to endure. And I feel no one no one at all, no matter how much you hate a person, deserves to be cyberbullied. And cyberbullying effects are very, very real and very, very harmful and can cause a lot of damage, as you can see, even suicide among a lot of people, not only celebrities. You see high school children and teenagers who take their own lives due to such. It's real. It's really real. I actually keep a screenshot of a lot of comments online. In fact, last night I had a session with Chitra UKM with Dr. Harlina Aliza Siraj, and we were talking about mindfulness and self-reflection. And some cyber troopers came on, politic-wise, giving the most horrible comments online, which was totally uncalled for and completely disgusting, right? But because I've been through that experience, I've gone very, very down until I was hospitalized once due to that cyberbullying. Now I have built that resilience to sort of not let it affect me. Thankfully, I didn't hurt myself, although I almost probably did. It was really hurtful. My children saw me crying. I went into an anxiety where my body was shaking. I had to take Valium actually to calm me down. And these are the effects of cyberbullying, that these people think one word, they type that word and they don't realize the effects it has on people. So there's an issue now here that people don't realize the effects of cyberbullying. And when this is a norm online, because the online environment changes online, right? It's a whole environment there. And I feel that we as human beings are not able yet to navigate ourselves in the online environment. We have norms offline, but our norms are not totally we haven't really come to terms with online norms. And my question is, do we want these hurtful words and comments and bullies to be a norm online? We're living online now. So are we going to as a norm? One of the things I see in Australia is there's this online hate prevention institute. They're doing a lot of advocacy work on teaching young kids to understand what is cyberbullying and not to do it. They don't, any child that cyberbullies anybody, diorang kena buang sekolah, so they're taking it very, very seriously. Now my question to the Malaysian public is, when you see adults bullying, ni satu komen yang I baca daripada Norel Taib, dia kata dulu masa dia bergambar tak pula nak sibuk hal politik, bila dah berambus jadi warga Australia baru nak sibuk hal politik, dasar perempuan that's what they say to me, right? Bos zaman KRU. These are some of the comments that I have to endure. And not only that, they kacau my people who are close to me, and it's horrible. And you feel like, how can people, someone's son and father and brother, and I notice mostly they're males. There are females, but mostly, there's no research, but I've noticed is they're males, they're Malay Muslim males. And I'm wondering, because I study psychology, I'm wondering, how did this come about? What makes them speak these hurtful words so freely without an ounce of guilt to your own Muslim sister who's not even doing anything wrong, might have a slightly different opinion than you, but I don't think I deserve this. Nobody deserves that kind of abuse, online or offline. So I understand the dynamics of online is very different, but I feel that there's so much more to be done in terms of creating a new norm and adab manners, of how to navigate ourselves online. I feel we're lacking in that sense. My last advice, I guess, to everybody is do not. When you see someone being bullied online, you call that person out. So we don't want to accept this, because it's a mob mentality. Like once one person does it, and because online, your behavior amplifies whether good or bad. It's a whole different world online. It's very complicated. We probably need another topic on that, right? Those words are completely hurtful, and and has impacted me a lot. It did. Although people kata, alah, janganlah hati tisu sangat. Janganlah ambil ignore. You cannot ignore sometimes. It affects you deeply. So I guess that's also one of the reasons why I totally deactivate, because it's not worth it. It's not worth it for my mental health. It's not worth it for my kids. I've got nothing to prove to anyone anyway. So yeah, effects of cyberbullying is very, very real. I don't wish it upon anyone, and I hope that no one has to endure hurtful words online or offline. Yeah.
That is actually kind of the current state that we're living in, the cancel culture that's currently happening. I mean, just most recently, some celebrities get canceled out for doing or saying things from the past. I did remember one of the times where Jenna Marbles, one of the YouTubers, very, very famous ones, she closed her account because of some racist term that she did 7 years ago. Yes, that was way behind her, but it did caught up again. It came up to the surface, and that kind of destroyed her career. In a way, there's also a disparity in terms of how women and men are kind of viewed as. Because if you're a guy celebrity, chances are they're kind of taking it a little bit lightly on you. That she actually called out on everyone, I'm sorry, and I won't be around anymore. It makes women basically stop, and that's her career. That's her YouTube career. That's a disappointing reality that we're currently facing in.
So I guess my question to us is, what do we do as human beings, where this is our next world, this is where we spend most of our time? So as human beings now, how do we deal with this? Where do we go from here, and what role can we play? I guess it's a question for us to think about, not trying to give any answers. What do we do as human beings, and to teach our children values to not cause harm onto anyone, whether online or offline? Because
understand that bullying is the same whether it's online or offline. Yeah, the problem is online. Yeah, the bullies they feel that they are anonymous. No one knows them. For example, Wardina, if you go walking about, do you see people coming to you and saying bad things to you? No, right? But online they can do it because they know that you don't know them, you don't know who they are, you cannot trace them back, so they feel invisible. I think it's good if we create awareness that online bullying is the same as offline bullying, and
we must not tolerate it. I think the message to the society is we are not going to tolerate this. It is not right. I think that's the message you need to push across. Kita takkan terima ni. This is not right.
So, do you think it's way better to confront someone who bullies you online, or to basically mute them out, or unfollow them or block them?
If these people are your families or friends, sometimes it can be very difficult to just block or mute them. Sometimes a good discussion would be good lah. Either you do the discussion or get somebody else to help up with the discussion. But then, if these individuals are anonymous person you don't know, or someone who you knew but not really close to, I think it's good to just sometimes block them or mute them, because it's not healthy for you. To know whether you should or not block them is depends on how you feel, your emotion, how you react to all these things. If you react negatively to it, it affects your life, it affects your functioning, then it's not healthy for you to continue with that situation.
If you follow advice, there's multiple ways that you can deal with it. So like you said, you can block, you can deactivate yourself. I guess blocking and deleting is one of the most popular ways of dealing with online bullying. But in terms where the volume is so high, like what I've experienced, like every single minute, that you can't even block anymore because it comes every single minute. So that was pretty hard. So I guess deactivating completely would be wise. But the thing with online bullying is that it stays there. It's there 24. Whether you block it, it's still going to be there. So I guess that has a psychological impact as well, because when you say offline, you bully when you go home, you're safe. But when there's online bullying, that although you're blocking, although you're deleting yourself, but you know it's still there online 24 hours a day and being shared, like, and sort of heal yourself eventually, find the strength of people who know you, who love you, and who know, and seek support. I guess that's one of the ways how to deal with online bullying, multiples of ways, but you find what will work best for you. Yeah.
It really takes courage, basically, to be online and to know that whatever you do and say online will stay there forever. And the fact that these bullies are invisible makes them invincible, makes them do everything that is destructive beyond their beliefs. What is your advice for especially for the young generation? This is the generation now. This is the new world we're living in. How do you adjust yourself to this new kind of reality?
Be mindful. Be mindful of how the social media affects you. Limit your time on social media. Engage in other activities as well that is pleasurable. Don't trust easily what you read or see on social media. Sometimes it's filter. Most of the time it's filter. It's not the real one. Okay, and then like Amna said, pick what you want or read or who you want to follow or subscribe, because the more you read on this topic,
the more it comes out.
The more it comes out. They have this algorithm. Somehow
that's a cycle.
What you're interested in, it comes on your feed. And be aware of cyberbullying. It's not right. It is a crime actually. So you can report it. And I think if you have emotional problems or psychological problems because of social media use or other things, it's good to get help. Professional help. Sometimes you can start talking to someone. If it's still not resolved, then it's good to get professional help. Counselors, psychologists, or even psychiatrists. Nowadays, there is still a stigma when you see when you want to go to see psychiatrists. But then I think mental health is something that people are talking about nowadays. So don't be ashamed, don't be afraid to seek help. Because the earlier you get help, the better it is for you.
How do you differentiate between fake news and real news?
You Google it. Outside of Instagram, you go to Google and you look for a reliable article.
Did they teach that in school? Or?
Well, they teach you how to research properly so you can differentiate between reliable sources and non-reliable sources. So don't take everything you see on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter or whatever as fact. You need to do your own research. And then
don't take memes as fact. I see some people, they post memes as a fact.
Do your own research. If I go onto my Instagram Explore and there's stuff on it that I think is not worth my time, or if it's just shallow and not really worth anything, I'll go and look up accounts that I think are beneficial and then go like all their posts so that that's what shows up on my feed. So you're in charge of what you see, and you need to first identify what you want to see or the morals that you align yourself with, and then work in accordance with that to ensure that the input that you're getting is beneficial and reliable.
I'm so proud of you, Zan. I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of her. I just want to say be kind. I guess I don't think I have it. I don't know what to say right now. I think you put it perfectly well. I don't know what to say anymore. Understand that the online environment has an impact on you, whether we realize it or not, right? I tend to use it a lot less nowadays because I don't see the need to use it as much as before, but I found a peace of mind using it less, I guess. I found that it's a hard world to navigate, lots of challenges. I think as parents, it is our responsibility to ensure that our children don't turn out as bullies, right? I wouldn't want my child to be writing those kind of stuff. Like that's my main goal.
If you share difference in opinion with someone online, you have a civil conversation and you give them the facts on why you believe the things that you do, and you don't do it in a derogatory way. You do it in like a constructive way, because everybody has the potential to grow and learn, you know, and everybody deserves to see all spectrums of an argument. So
It's hard on Facebook. It's hard.
yeah.
So in fact, studies show that if a person has an opinion and you try and give them facts, they hold on to their previously held belief even higher. So actually, sometimes it's just worth to walk away and tell yourself it's not worth it. Be kind to everybody. Have a lot of because yes, last night we were talking about self-reflection. Self-reflect a lot. Those people around you who matter, and those people, or you know, online sometimes are just strangers who don't matter.
So thank you so much for taking your time to be with us today. Thank you so much, because like this is one of like the conversations that needed to have, you know, especially for people who actually don't know the effects of social media in their lives and how can it actually deeply affect how they think in general and how they live their lives.